Before the mighty Mali Empire rose to greatness, before its cities gleamed with gold and echoed with the voices of scholars, there was the land vast, ancient, and full of potential. West Africa, centuries before the 13th century, was a tapestry of diverse kingdoms and tribal cultures, each with its own language, religion, and traditions. This region, blessed with the fertile valleys of the Niger River, was the heartbeat of early African civilization. Long before Mali came to be, the land was ruled by the Empire of Ghana, not the modern nation, but a kingdom rich in gold and power. Ghana, or Ouagadougou, flourished between the 6th and 11th centuries, commanding the trans-Saharan trade of gold and salt. Its kings taxed goods moving in and out, and its capital, Kambi Soleh, bustled with traders, Berber merchants and caravan leaders from North Africa. But power is never eternal. Ghana weakened under invasions, internal rivalries, and the growing influence of Islam from the north. By the 1100s, it was crumbling. In its shadow, a new force began to stir. A people descended from hunters and farmers, the Mandinka. The Mandinka, or Manding, lived in small chiefdoms across the savannas of what is now southern Mali and Guinea. Their lands were fertile, their families proud, and their traditions rich in oral history. One such Mandinka chiefdom was Kongobra, a peaceful, humble kingdom that would soon produce one of Africa's greatest leaders. From Kongobra came a boy, Sundiata Keita, born in the early 13th century, around 1210, but his birth was surrounded by mystery and prophecy. Sundiata was born weak and crippled, unable to walk. Many thought him cursed, a shame to his lineage, but his mother, Sogalon, believed differently. She nurtured him with patience and faith. Years passed, and one day, as if touched by destiny itself, Sundiata stood. He walked, and soon, he would lead. While Sundiata grew, the region fell into chaos. The Soso kingdom, under the sorcerer king Sumanguru Kanti, crushed the last remnants of Ghana and began conquering Mandinka lands. Sumanguru was feared not just for his armies, but for the dark magic he wielded. When he took over Kongobra, Sundiata and his family fled into exile. For years, the exiled prince wandered across kingdoms, learning politics, warfare, diplomacy and waiting. In 1235, the Mandinka people, tired of oppression, sent word to Sundiata, "Come home. Save us." He returned not as a boy, but as a leader. With the support of allied kingdoms, he raised an army. The Battle of Kirina was fierce. Sundiata, with a white horse and shining armor, clashed with the dark forces of Sumanguru. Legend says magic met magic, and destiny triumphed. Sumanguru was defeated. Sundiata was crowned the first Mansa of Mali, King of Kings. With victory came unity. At the Kuru Konfuga assembly, Sundiata gathered leaders and laid down laws, creating a constitution that enshrined justice, freedom, and respect for all. This was the birth of a new empire, Mali. He declared Niani as its capital, and from there, a new golden age began. Sundiata ruled wisely until the 1260s. He rebuilt roads, promoted agriculture, and solidified Mali's presence in regional trade. But more than that, he gave the Mandinka people something priceless: identity, pride, and purpose. He would forever be remembered as the Lion King of Mali. After the legendary reign of Sundiata Keita, the Mali Empire continued to grow in strength. But it was under the leadership of one man that it would rise to unimaginable glory. A man whose name would echo across continents. A man whose wealth would become the stuff of legend. Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa, also known as Kankan Musa, ascended the throne around 1312 AD. He was not born into immediate royalty, but came to power through royal appointment, possibly as a deputy, while the sitting emperor went on a sea expedition and never returned. When Musa took power, Mali was already vast, but he had vision beyond borders. He would expand Mali's territory, wealth, and reputation across Africa and the world. Under Mansa Musa, the Mali Empire became the largest producer of gold in the known world. The empire stretched over 2,000 miles from the Atlantic Ocean to modern-day Niger, encompassing trade cities like Timbuktu, Gao, and Jen. The trans-Saharan trade routes thrived under his leadership. Salt, ivory, slaves, cola nuts, and especially gold passed through Mali, enriching its cities and people. Mansa Musa turned the desert city of Timbuktu into a center of learning and spirituality. He built mosques, libraries, and madrasas, drawing scholars and poets from North Africa and the Middle East. The Sankha University, one of the most famous centers of Islamic learning in the world, was expanded during his reign. Thousands of manuscripts on science, astronomy, law, and philosophy were collected. Mali was no longer just a kingdom of warriors, it was now a beacon of intellectual greatness. In 1324, Mansa Musa undertook his Hajj, the sacred Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca. But this was no ordinary journey. He traveled with a caravan of 60,000 people, including 12,000 slaves, all dressed in fine silk. His entourage included 500 servants carrying gold staffs, and 100 camels, each bearing up to 300 pounds of gold. As he passed through Cairo, Medina, and Mecca, he distributed gold so generously that he caused massive inflation, destabilizing local economies for years. The world took notice. European and Arab cartographers, traders, and kings began to speak of Mali as a land of unfathomable riches. Mansa Musa's pilgrimage was so spectacular that it changed the way the world saw Africa. In 1375, his image appeared in the Catalan Atlas, a European map with Musa depicted as a majestic black king, holding a nugget of gold and a scepter, seated on a throne in the heart of West Africa. He became the first African ruler widely recognized by Europeans, and Mali was now viewed as a wealthy and powerful empire. Mansa Musa didn't just spread gold, he built an empire of lasting beauty. Upon his return from Mecca, he brought with him architects and artisans from the Islamic world, especially Al-Sahili, a renowned architect from Andalusia. They built grand mosques like the Jingiba Mosque of Timbuktu, palaces, administrative buildings, and fortified city walls. These structures were crafted with Sudano-Sahelian architecture, combining African and Islamic influences using mud brick, wood, and limestone. The economy wasn't just about gold. Mansa Musa invested in agriculture, water management, and regional trade. Farming communities were supported with tools and irrigation. He also reduced internal conflicts by uniting tribes under a common legal code rooted in Islamic and traditional Mandinka law. Justice was swift, and Mansa Musa was known for being both devout and fair. His court held open audiences where citizens could bring their complaints. During his time, Griots, traditional West African storytellers, thrived. These oral historians preserved the legacy of the empire, Sundiata Keita, and now Mansa Musa himself. They sang songs of the king who gave away rivers of gold, who kneeled at Mecca, and whose empire glowed under the desert sun. These griots weren't just entertainers, they were living libraries, passing on the empire's values, myths, and moral codes to future generations. By the end of Mansa Musa's reign in the 1330s, the Mali Empire was at its absolute height. It controlled 400 cities, had one of the largest armies in Africa, and its gold was desired by kingdoms from Italy to India. More importantly, Mansa Musa had crafted not just an empire but a legacy, a symbol of what African civilizations could be: wealthy, wise, powerful, and deeply spiritual.
The reign of Mansa Musa brought the Mali Empire to its golden peak, but even the brightest sun must set, and as Musa departed the world, he left behind a kingdom both rich in gold and vulnerable to the forces of time, ambition, and change. After the death of Mansa Musa in the 1330s, the empire passed to his son Mansa Maga. But where Musa had been visionary and commanding, Maga was young, inexperienced, and politically fragile. The empire's sheer size required a masterful ruler to keep its borders, allies, and economy in balance. Without such leadership, Mali began to fracture from within. In the decades that followed, the throne of Mali became a revolving door of weak or short-lived rulers. Some were deposed, others assassinated, civil wars broke out. Vassal states once loyal to Mali now began declaring independence. Provinces like Gao and Takeda grew restless and sought autonomy. Powerful generals and governors began acting as kings in their own lands. The once unified voice of Mali became a chorus of competing ambitions. As Mali grew weaker internally, a new force was rising in the east, the Songhai Empire, based in Gao. Originally a vassal state of Mali, Songhai had learned Mali's ways, its military, trade, and governance, and now sought independence and dominance. By the 1430s, under leaders like Sunni Ali, the Songhai began to chip away at Mali's eastern borders. Capturing cities, cutting off trade routes, and challenging Mali's control of the Niger River. One of Mali's most devastating blows came in the 1430s, when the Tuareg nomads from the north captured Timbuktu, the jewel of Mali's cultural legacy. They plundered its libraries, disrupted the flow of scholars, and severed Mali's link with the Islamic world. Though Mali would later recapture it, the damage was done. Timbuktu never returned to its former brilliance under Mali. The fall of cities like Gao and Timbuktu wasn't just symbolic, it was economic suicide. The trade routes that once brought gold, salt, and ivory through Mali now flowed through Songhai or other emerging kingdoms. Mali's mines in the south began to produce less gold. Its currency weakened, its influence faded. Merchants, once loyal to Mali, now found better protection and profits elsewhere. By the late 1400s, Mali had shrunk dramatically, but one final ruler attempted to revive its fading flame, Mansa Mahmud IV. He ruled during the early 1500s and attempted reforms, raising a new army, fortifying key cities, and negotiating trade alliances. But the tides had turned too far. In 1546, the Songhai Empire, under Askia Muhammad, delivered a crushing blow to Mali's remaining strongholds. Mali's final glimmer of resistance was extinguished. Though Mali's political power was gone, its legacy did not die. The Griots, the sacred storytellers of West Africa, kept the memory of the Mali Empire alive through generations. They sang the story of Sundiata's rise, of Musa's pilgrimage, of the empires of old and the glories long past. They told tales of honor, bravery, and wisdom, preserving Mali not in bricks or gold, but in the hearts of its people. Though the empire fell, its impact was eternal. It proved that Africa was not a continent of darkness, but of brilliance. It produced some of the greatest rulers in human history. Like Sundiata and Mansa Musa, it created centers of learning that rivaled any in Europe or the Middle East. It showed that leadership rooted in faith, wisdom, and unity could transform a nation. Today, echoes of Mali still live in the names of towns, the rhythms of music, the structure of governments, and the pride of people across West Africa. Empires rise, and empires fall. But the Mali Empire reminds us that true greatness lies not in how long a kingdom lasts, but in how deeply it touches the soul of a people. And so, even as its palaces faded into dust, the golden legacy of Mali shines on, in song, in spirit, and in history. From the rise of Sundiata to the reign of Mansa Musa, from the whispering winds of the savannah to the echo of Griots' songs, Mali's story is more than history. It is the heartbeat of Africa's past, and a vision of its eternal greatness. Subscribe to hear more about ancient Africa's kings and kingdoms, empires and emperors.